The Miami Dolphins may have lost on Sunday to the Houston Texans, but they did receive the best news possible after the loss to the Houston Texans. And you might be wondering how that's even possible as Miami fell to 6-8 on the season and the playoff percent chances lowered quite a bit. Well, it's mostly on the injury front because head coach Mike McDaniel said that Jaylen Waddle, the star young wide receiver, his knee issue that forced him to leave the game against Houston in the first half. He did not return. He was blocking. He got rolled up on from behind. Players came crashing into his knee. He does not need to have surgery, and the injury is not serious whatsoever, and he's actually labeled as day-to-day. We'll talk more about Waddle and the injury, but I do want you to follow us over on Instagram. We are 36 followers away from reaching 600. Our handle is Dolphins Today IG. We are posting content over there daily, and if you want 365-day, 24/7 coverage of the Dolphins, you got to be subscribed, but you also got to follow us on Instagram because you'll be covered in between our YouTube shows and live streams, so go give us a follow right now. Let's get back to Jaylen Waddle because considering how bad it looked, and if you were with us on our watch party Sunday against Houston, you would have seen my reaction. You would have seen how concerned I was about Jaylen Waddle because I am just through the roof that there is no damage, there is no surgery, there is nothing serious about this Waddle knee issue long term. Because when you see a wide receiver get his knee rolled up on and it bends inwards and he kind of falls weirdly backwards, you get concerned about an ACL, an MCL, a PCL, and you're like, well, shit, this doesn't just suck for the rest of the season, but this could have an impact on his rehab and ability to be ready to go in the 25 season to start the year fast. And luckily, that will not be the case because, like I mentioned a second ago, Mike McDaniel said he is day to day. But on Waddle this season, it has been a disappointing year. Like, let's be clear here. With 3 games left that he may miss this week, he may not. He only has 700 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's been the worst season of Jaylen Waddle's career. Now, maybe that can be attributed to Tua Tagovailoa being out for 4 games. Maybe it can be attributed to the different style of offense Miami's playing this year, relying on the quick passing game a lot more instead of the explosive plays, featuring Jonnu Smith and Devon Achane in the passing game a ton. But he is the future of this receiver room. Even though it's a down year, they gave him a 3-year extension this offseason before they had to. Waddle is in his 4th year. He's on the 5th-year option already next season. So that extension that he signed before the year began isn't only going to kick in until after next year. So it's not like they had to extend him before the season. They could have done it in this offseason or waited till after the 5th-year option. They believe in him. They know he has wide receiver 1 capabilities for the Miami Dolphins. And when Tyreek Hill is 30 years old, going to be 31 before next season, you have to seriously consider if he might be moved off of and you lean on Waddle to be your number 1 guy going forward and build a more complementary wide receiver room around him instead of using just the speed of Hill and Waddle consistently. Like, he is the future of this room, and I'm excited to see him grow, and I'm very glad he is going to be okay long term and does not have a serious knee issue after that scary little roll up this past Sunday. If you're with me, if you're happy Jaylen Waddle is all right long term, spam his jersey number 17 down in the comments section. Show me that you were fired up for Jaylen Waddle, that he is all right. Now, I am a little sad, though, before we move on from Waddle, that his 1,000-yard streak is likely over. Like I mentioned, it's the 4th year in his career, and he's reached 1,000 yards the first 3 seasons. He obviously set a record for receptions in his rookie season, but had 1,014 yards in that rookie year. Then had a really good sophomore campaign, 1,100-plus yards. And then last year had 1,015 yards, but unless he plays the final 3 games and has 100 yards plus in each of those games or goes nuclear and is able to reach 1,000 yards and 300 yards in the final 3 games, it doesn't look like that streak will continue, which is a bummer for him personally because I did think he was going to have like a Mike Evans type season and career to where he was just going to have 1,000 yards every single season because Mike Evans has done the same thing. All right, let's move over to the next piece of good news, and that's wide receiver Grant DuBose is in a stable condition after that scary head injury he suffered on Sunday against the Texans. If you don't remember and are just now hearing this for the first time, coming across the middle of the field in the third quarter, gets hit shoulder to head, falls back and lands on his head as well as Tua threw a hospital ball over the middle, and it's called a hospital ball for the reason. It's because Grant DuBose had to go to the hospital. He was taken off of the field on a stretcher, unconscious, and he is okay. Here is the statement from the Dolphins organization saying that after sustaining a head injury in yesterday's game, Grant DuBose remained at a local Houston hospital for evaluation overnight. He has movement in all extremities, and initial tests have revealed positive results. He remains under the care of doctors for continued observation. And this is just great to see, man, because there was legit concern from me that he was going to be injured long term. And whenever you mention anything head related, neck related, it gets scary because you never know how those things are going to go. So it's awesome to hear that Grant DuBose is fine. He also got placed on IR today, so his season is over. That was anticipated regardless. But DuBose, someone who was claimed by the Dolphins after waiver day from the Green Bay Packers, got hurt in week 2 against the Bills, returned from IR to play in this game last Sunday, and then gets that crazy injury. It was tough to see, and the wide receiver room in Miami gets thinner, but the only thing that matters is that Grant DuBose is going to be healthy and good long term, because that was the main concern. More news to get to in just a second, but we are sponsored by Game Time, the best ticketing app out there, and they are the best because they have so many great features that make purchasing your tickets easy and accessible. One of them being Game Time Picks. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Another pair of features that I love, all-in pricing and the panoramic views. You get a full view of your seat in the app before you buy, whether it's a comedy show, concert, sporting event, you'll know exactly where you're sitting. And then that all-in pricing feature. It shows you the total price of your ticket up front, so you don't get blindsided by fees at checkout. Nothing worse than thinking you're buying a ticket for $50, $60, and next thing you know, you're going to check out and they're ringing you up for $110. That's an absolute disaster, not with Game Time. Give the best gift this holiday season. I got tickets for me and my family for Timberwolves Mavericks on Christmas Day. You will be the winner of the best gift given when you purchase your tickets for someone, whether it's family member, friend, coworker, doesn't matter. But make sure you use Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code ChatSports when signing up to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, first purchase only, but use code CHAT. SPORTS to get $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? It is game time. Next piece of news we have to discuss. Bradley Chubb, is he returning this week for the Miami Dolphins? He got returned to practice, and his 21-day practice window was open before the game against the New York Jets 2 weeks ago. Well, he didn't play in that game, just activated 2 or 3 days prior. That was expected. And people wondered if he was going to make his debut on Sunday against the Texans. Well, that was not the case, and he still remains sidelined and not played this season after recovering from the torn ACL and PCL and MCL that he suffered last year in Week 17-16 against the Baltimore Ravens. And it is no sure thing that he actually does return this week against the San Francisco 49ers. Complete blank for a second there. Mike McDaniel in his press conference on Monday actually said that his status won't be decided on until the end of the week. And I do think it's important to mention his timeline because he has to be activated at late as Christmas, December 25. We mentioned that 21-day practice window. If you get returned in that window and you do not get activated off of PUP/IR to the active roster, you are unable to come back this season. So if Bradley Chubb is not activated to the 53-man on Christmas Day or sooner, he is not going to return this season against the 49ers, Jets, or Cleveland Browns, the last 3 opponents of the Miami Dolphins. So that is an important update there. I hope he does return. I know a lot of fans out there are concerned about bringing him back because if he is hurt and gets hurt again, his career might be done. You don't want to re-aggravate that knee injury, but I also think it's important for him to get live reps going into the offseason and maybe even bump up his trade value by showcasing he still has that burst in athleticism. And it's good for Miami to know if he's still got that juice as well going into the offseason, so they know if they have to address that position or move off of him as well. I think it's important for him to get back out on the football field, and I'm going to hope that he is back playing this Sunday against the 49ers, or at worst, the last two games against Browns and Jets. All right, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We're almost at 66,000. And guess what, folks? If Bradley Chubb does get activated to the 53-man roster, we will let you know about that roster move. So subscribe today, and let's get to 66,000 sooner rather than later. We mentioned that game against the Cleveland Browns in Week 17. It was originally scheduled as a Sunday night football game. That is no longer the case. Announced on Tuesday afternoon that the NFL has flexed Dolphins-Browns out of Sunday night football and replaced it with the Washington Commanders hosting the Atlanta Falcons. And if you were wondering what time that game is now, it still will be Sunday. It is now 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time against the Browns, so they move up 4 hours from 8:25 to 4:05. So they play the 49ers at 4:25 this Sunday, 4:05 against the Browns in Week 17, and then that final game against the Jets in Week 18 is unsure of time, but it will likely be played on Sunday. That is for sure. All right, we'll round out today's video with the Dolphins. Are they still in the playoff hunt? Are they still having a chance to make the postseason? Because this is where things stand after NFL Week 15. They remain 2 games back of a playoff spot. The 4 division leaders have all clinched a spot, but the wild card remains up for grabs with the Ravens and Broncos both 9-5, Chargers 8-6 after losing at home against the Buccaneers, and then the Bengals, Dolphins, and Colts all sitting there at 6-8. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because Pro Football Network actually gave them a 22.4% chance to make the postseason, which I got to be honest, is a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be 6%, 5% to make the postseason, but Pro Football Network saying 22.4%, which I thought was interesting. And if you are someone who wants the Dolphins to make the playoffs and are curious to see how that can happen, this game will tell you everything you need to know. Thursday night football. The Broncos and Chargers face off. If you're someone who wants to make the playoffs, you must be glued into this game. Because if the Dolphins do want to make the postseason, the Dolphins, one, have to win out. And I said that they needed to win out before the loss against the Texans. Well, it actually has to be now. Because any loss for Miami pretty much eliminates them from the postseason, like actually mathematically, not just in the figure of speech. You need the Colts to lose a game. They're 6-8. They can't finish 9-8 because they have the tiebreaker over you. And you need either the Broncos to lose out or the Ravens, but the Ravens aren't going to lose out, or the Chargers to go 1-2. And that's why I find the game against the Broncos and Chargers this Thursday so fascinating. Like, you could have the Broncos lose out or the Chargers go 1-2. So it's in your favor to root for the Denver Broncos on Thursday, because if Denver beats the Chargers on Thursday Night Football, the Dolphins would just need to win out and have the Chargers go 1-1 in the final 2 games. Now, granted, they are against the New England Patriots and Las Vegas Raiders, 2 of the 3 worst teams in football, but you would only need them to lose 1 of the games if the Broncos win on Thursday. If the Chargers win on Thursday, well, then you would need the Chargers to lose out and the Broncos to lose out, and that feels very unlikely. So if you want the Dolphins to make the playoffs, to me, it's very simple. Win your final 3 games, Colts lose 1 of their last 3, and the Broncos to win on Thursday, and then the Patriots or the Raiders to upset the Chargers in Week 17 or Week 18. What say you? Do you even want the Dolphins to make the playoffs? Type Y if you do, type N if you do not. I actually understand both sides of the equation here on wanting them to make or miss the postseason, but let me know your thoughts down below. I have always said that if you are a true fan of a sports team, doesn't matter if it's the Dolphins, doesn't matter if it's a different NFL team, a baseball team, basketball, does not matter. If you are a fan, you should always root for the playoffs. This might be the one exception for me because I want Chris Grier to be fired. I want Mike McDaniel to be fired because I think if for the Dolphins to get to the Super Bowl level that they are aspiring to do, the quickest way to get there is to fire Mike McDaniel, fire Chris Greer, bring in a different mindset, bring in a different culture to try to rebuild this organization and locker room. And the only way that happens is if the Dolphins go 1-2, 2-1 down the stretch, miss the postseason, and Stephen Ross gets fed up. Do I think that's going to happen? Do I think they're going to get fired? I don't know. I would probably lean no, even though I want them to. But if they miss the playoffs, the chances at least go a little bit higher that those two things happen. And if anything catastrophic or seismic does happen in the offseason, we will be here to break it down. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Still dropping daily content on the Miami Dolphins, so make sure you are subscribed.